Hi there. This training I'm going to offer you today is for you if you are just starting out with SketchUp. You've barely opened the software, or maybe you tried to open it and didn't really manage to get the hang of it, so you closed it pretty quickly. In this video, I'm going to start from the very beginning of SketchUp, really the basics, and explain in the simplest way possible how the different tools in SketchUp work and how we can draw things that I'm showing you here on the screen. Some pretty amazing stuff that you can create with just a few clicks. It's really true. SketchUp is a fantastic software for turning your ideas into 3D very quickly. It's really the truth. SketchUp is a great software to put your ideas into volume very, very quickly. So let's get started right away, and I'll show you that on my screen. So I'm starting by taking you into the SketchUp interface. So normally you should have the same interface as me when you start SketchUp for the first time and you haven't really changed anything in it. We're going to see modifying tools, lay out everything, but normally you should have pretty much the same thing except for the character who, as you probably recognized, looks like someone. I did it myself, that's it, I did it myself. But that's the only thing that changes, by the way. Every time SketchUp evolves, they introduce a new mascot, a new character every year. So depending on the version you are using, I am on version 2024, but you may be on the previous one, the next one, it doesn't matter. You don't have exactly the same character, but the software doesn't change much from year to year. There are some small updates, but the fundamentals remain the same. So you can easily follow this video with another version of SketchUp. So the first thing is, how do we move around in SketchUp? So it's going to be very simple. You have tools that are directly accessible from the mouse, as long as you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, which isn't the case for some Macs, for example. So I'm going to show you both ways to do it. In the end, I really recommend a scroll wheel mouse. They're really inexpensive, so it's worth getting one, even for a Mac, just for 3D work. It's much more convenient. So, what do we need to do? We need to zoom in and out, and we'll be doing a lot of that, and it's done by rolling the scroll wheel under our finger in a pretty intuitive way. Next, there's rotating around like this, which is called orbiting. So, you do that by clicking on the scroll wheel, which means I'm not rolling it, but I'm pressing down on it like I would press a button. And then I move, and so I'm in orbit mode. You can see that I have the arrow, and when I press the mouse button, I switch to orbit mode. It's this icon here, which means you can also use the selection arrow that's here and click here to move, but that requires you to click, while this tool is directly accessible by pressing the mouse button. Then there are translations, which is the last movement to know. We press two keys at the same time. We press Shift above Control on the left side of the keyboard just above. And at the same time, you press the scroll wheel like for orbiting, and now we're in pan mode. You see, we have a kind of hand that appears with arrows. It's the same icon that's here. So that means if you click here and do it the same way, you can do it. So it's up to you to decide if you prefer to click here, or use the mouse. I click on the mouse and I click on the mouse plus Shift and I do this. There's also a third way, which is to use keyboard shortcuts to access this directly. So for orbiting, it's O and I go directly into orbit mode. And for panning, we see a hand and that's H. So to go back, you use the arrow key and the space bar is your friend. You have the space bar, O and H that let you switch from this to that, okay? You have three ways, either the keyboard shortcuts or you click on them. Or what I really recommend is using the mouse to do this. There's a little bit of a learning curve at first, but it's really time-saving in the long run. I'll let you get used to that. It won't happen in 5 seconds if you've never done it before, but it will come. Next, we have the creation tools. We're going to directly look at the fundamental principle of SketchUp, which is to draw things flat and then give them volume. So how do I do that? I have drawing tools. I'm going to take the simplest one of all, which is the rectangle. I make the first click to anchor the first corner of my rectangle. Then I move and make a second click. Okay, let me show you again. One click, two clicks, and if I create overlapping surfaces, well, that works too. I can overlap the surfaces. I can do the same thing with other surfaces that we find here. Other ways to create a circle, for example, is one click, two clicks, one click, two clicks, one click, two clicks, always the same. For the line tool, one click, two clicks, and I keep going. And when I close the surface, well, when I close the lines, I create a surface. By the way, look with the line tool, it can sometimes give you something like this. I'm going to draw pretty quickly like this. I'm closing it. There, work. I'm trying to reproduce a problem that you're potentially going to have. Why didn't it create a surface? because the line tool can be quite misleading. You really need to pay attention in order to stay a bit more flat and draw more carefully and precisely on an axis as you work on this task or project. If I draw on a plane, it doesn't work. That point needs to be at the same level as the others. So I select everything and I hit delete on the keyboard. To delete, to select, we'll get to that right away. So we have the arrow tool here that basically, essentially, simply just literally actually allows you to select surfaces or edges. If I want to select multiple items at the same time, I hold down Shift and I can make multiple selections. Same with the edges. And I can take edges and surfaces. Why not? If I take a surface here and a surface there and I hit delete on the keyboard, I've just made a hole. I've just deleted them. I can very simply select and easily delete. If I just carefully select edges, I quickly hit the Ctrl Z key to go back. When I made a mistake, I didn't want to delete that Ctrl. See, I go back. If I delete an internal edge, what happens? There, I had two surfaces. Now I only have one. If I delete an edge that's external like this, going outward, there won't be a surface anymore because it's no longer closed. I would need to take the line tool and close it again. As soon as it's closed, it makes me a liar. I'm going to delete it and redo it with the line tool from one end to the other. I don't know why. I can delete those edges there. I'm going to delete this one that's external. And there, what happens? Well, of course, since the surface is no longer closed, there's no surface possible. So I can close the surface again, either with a Ctrl Z or by redrawing the line. And there, the surface comes back because it's closed again. So that's the basic principle of creation. I'll let you try out the different shapes. There are polygons, there are lines, and there's also freehand drawing, freeform shapes. That allows you to make shapes like this no matter what you can do. As soon as it closes, a surface is created. You can draw inside another surface, such as a canvas, for example. That works too. And what else can we do? We have the curve tools. The curve tools, like protractors. We can make curves like this. We'll see those later in the training, and I'll give you the link right after. So, we've created some things. I'm going to delete all of them. I'm doing this. I select everything, and I'm going to remove this one from the selection because I want to keep it. So I press Shift and I click. I just removed it from my selection. I press Delete or Backspace and I have nothing left. I'm starting over. What are we going to do? Now we're going to show how to create volume. I'm going to make a little rectangle here. I'm going to take the Push-Pull tool. This is the magic tool of SketchUp. The tool that represents the software everywhere, the Push-Pull. If I simply hover over a surface and click, I essentially lift it up and give volume to that surface. Ctrl Z, let me go back. I'm going to do like before and basically create a few overlapping surfaces that essentially intersect. I'm taking the Push-Pull tool. The keyboard shortcut is P. Essentially, this tool is quite useful. I'm definitely going up or down. Sometimes you have to do it in 2 steps, and I create volume like this. You can see that down here, some of them are still open. So to close them, I'm going to take the line tool again, which is really handy, because if I draw a diagonal line like this, it will understand that I want to close it. Same here, L for line, I draw a diagonal, I delete the diagonal, but it created surfaces again. So with these techniques, I can start modeling things, and even if it's freehand, it works too. If I take the shape from earlier and just do a bit of anything, as long as it's closed, I hit P for push-pull, I pull it up, and that's good. Okay, once again, I select everything except the character, I delete it, and now we're going to see how to work with precision because that's what interests us. We're going to go to Window, Model Info, Units, and there we see that I'm in centimeters with a precision of 1 decimal place. If I definitely wanted to move to another system, I wouldn't hesitate, without a doubt, another unit. That's where it happens. In my mind. I'm staying in centimeters. I'm going to take the rectangle tool and watch closely. It's really interesting. When I make the first click and move, I don't confirm with the second click yet. Look what's happening down there. I have numbers changing for length and width. So if I do this, but I don't confirm, and I type directly on the keyboard the dimensions I want, let's say I want it to be, 450 by 250. So I'll type 450, 250 and hit enter. Oh, it didn't understand because I used a dot instead of a semicolon, so that doesn't work. I need to use a semicolon. Let me try again. 450 semicolon 250, enter. There we go. I start again with a click, and this time I want 800 by 800. So I do 800 semicolon 800, and then 500 semicolon 500. As long as I haven't made any additional clicks, I can still modify it to 250 semicolon 750. Semicolon 500, as long as I haven't made any additional clicks, I can change it to 250 semicolon 750. For comma 750. For comma 750. For comma 750. For comma. And I can do numbers behind the decimal point. If I type 856.2, 252.7, enter, and it just worked. So how do I know it actually worked? Well, that's when we're going to change our little toolbar here and take another one because this one is a bit limited in features. We're going to go to View, Toolbar, and I'm going to look for the full tool set that's indeed here. And now I have the same tools as before, but I also have others, including the dimension tool here, where I can do this. I hover over the line, click, and it shows me the dimensions 252 by 856. Okay, let's check here. 250 by, okay, let's do a third one to make sure it simply works. So I do this and type 252.7, approximately around 252.7 for 1/500. Okay, we're just going to take the dimensioning tool and we see 252.7 500, so it's super precise. And I can do this with all the tools. Look, if I take the line, I start to draw a line, I write 500 at one end, I write 252 at the other end, I write 127. Okay, let's check 500. 252. Head, okay, let's check. What did he said? 5252. It's super precise for that in SketchUp. It's really well suited for furniture construction, interior design, and even exterior design. Everything that requires precision is very precise and very simple. Despite appearances, you can do great things with this software. I'm deleting everything. Let's take a more concrete example. I'm going to make a room like this, a large, spacious room that will be approximately 10 meters by 5 meters. And I'm going to use a new tool called the offset. So I can take this tool with F, that's the keyboard shortcut F, and I hover over the surface and I offset it inward or outward. Look, I just do this. And now I have a dimension. So I'm going to offset by 20 centimeters. I'm going to take the push-pull tool, I pull it up, and then I write, I don't know, 280, enter. So it raises the wall to 280. We can check the wall is indeed 280 high. And my wall thickness is definitely 20 centimeters. It's very super precise. I can just come here and make an opening. I'm carefully taking my little rectangle to make a door or something exactly like that. I start clicking, I move, and then I look down at what's written in the dimension. The width is the first number, so I'm going to write 240. Using push-pull tool, push, click, boom, opening, awesome, speeding up training. Using tape measure for reference points. Window on wall at height 2 on 10. Start from bottom, go up, reference point at 2 on 10, top of window, bottom at 100, window starts there, 250 from here, 125 wide. For example, I want the window on this wall to match the height, so that's 210. I take the tape measure, start from the bottom, go up, and it gives me a reference point. I write 210, enter, and it sets a reference point at 210, high, the top of my window. The bottom will be at 100, so I do 100, okay? My window starts there, 250 from here, okay? And it's 125 wide, 125, done quickly. I take it, slide, write a number. It's always the same with SketchUp. Why did I do that? Those little reference points. It's always the same with SketchUp. Why did I do that reference points? Well, simply put, they are essentially helpful and practical guides or instructions that will allow me to comfortably and securely sit on them, to make a selection, perform a simple push-pull action, similar to what you would do for opening or closing a door. And just like that, you have successfully completed the task. Okay, that's awesome. I want to delete these guides. Here, I can either select them like this, but it's a bit slow. Either take the eraser right here and hover over them with the eraser. And you see that if I hover over with the eraser, it gets erased. Watch out, Ctrl Z, I'm going back. Or if we have all the guides here in this specific section, you can also simply delete the guides as you find necessary. Now, what we are going to do is go over to the side here, to the material section. I'm going to go into the wood category, and in the wood section, I'm going to take a floorboard. There you go. I'm going to go into the brick category, a brick texture. There you go. You can see how very quickly we can indeed create things easily in SketchUp. It's amazing. I also have the option to take advantage of a large library of all kinds of objects called the 3D warehouse, which is right here, a 3D warehouse window. You log in with your Trimble account, you type in what you're looking for, let's say a chair. Watch out for the weight of the items. You see 3.84 megawatts, so this one is much lighter than this one, but at the same time, this one is much more detailed. The heavier it is in general, the more detailed it is, so it's up to you to be careful and check the weight of each item. So here I'm going to take something pretty light, this one for the example. I'm downloading it, and it goes straight into my model. We can see that it's enclosed in some kind of box, it's a component. This will allow me, with the Move tool, to manipulate the object. So we haven't seen this yet, the Move tool. You select your component, you take the Move tool, and you click somewhere next to it. And there you go, you can move the object. You confirm the move. Another thing, when you have the Move tool on a component, when you hover over it, you see little red crosses that appear, and these red crosses allow you to click and rotate the object. And similarly, down here, I have something that shows up. You see, it shows minus something. So if I want to turn it that way, I write 90, and there it goes, it's turning. Okay, I'm going to duplicate the object now. We're going to do the classic Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, and there you go. Knowing that there are other methods that I'll show you later in the training to copy like this, take a look. I'm copying and I want to copy it 10 times. I can do that directly. This is a bit premature, so I'm not showing you that right now. I'll show you later. But we can do the famous Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V. So if I take my two chairs and I do Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, show up here. I'm putting them facing each other. I'm going to rotate them 180 degrees and reposition them. And what am I going to do? You can feel it coming. I'm going to put a table. So we're going to go to Window 3D Warehouse. This time I'm going to type table. We're going to take a pretty light table as well. This one, very light. I'm importing it. It's coming in very quickly. I'm turning it around and you see that I'm starting to set up a little scene in my living room. And like that, I'll be able to create kitchens, bathrooms, living rooms, put down rugs, put up wallpaper, basically everything I want. For the interior, it works. I'll be able to create custom furniture. I can do a ton of things in SketchUp. There's a lot to say, but every time it's just as simple as that. That's the advantage of the software. It's simple. To access all this information, I've prepared a series of training sessions that I've hosted on my website, and you can find it through the first link in the description of this video. Just click on it and you'll access this video training that will detail everything else about SketchUp. How to organize your project, how to create a bit more complex things like windows, and especially how to organize groups and components, a way of copying that I showed you. That's a bit more efficient. In short, a lot of really interesting things about SketchUp, so I invite you to click on this link, and I'll see you right away in the next part of the training. See you soon.